Hello and welcome to the IT News Podcast, brought to you by the State of Security Report and Brennan. I'm Ry Crozier, Editor-in-Chief of IT News. Stick around and hear Peter Soulsby, Head of Security at Brennan, who will emphasise the importance of focusing on key data and minimising noise to effectively protect against evolving cyber threats. But first, we hear from Colonial First State's Group Executive for Transformation, Technology and Operations, Jeroen Buwalda, about the company's new enterprise data platform, the key drivers, and the uplift it is enabling for client and advisor experience.
At CFS, we are a nimble organization, very focused on making sure that we create excellent experiences and differentiated experiences for our advisors and their clients. And so if you work your way back from there, we have a technology organization that is geared towards creating fantastic platforms for advisors to work from and for clients to administer their superannuation funds and their wealth management assets. And secondly, we have a technology architecture that leverages platform as a service or software as a service where we can, and also leverages partners where we can. We realize that we will not be able to create all of the different functions and applications of our own bat, and therefore we are very much looking to leverage capabilities from leading organizations in the different spaces to bring those experiences together for our advisors and their clients. To explain that high level, we have a few different components to our architecture. We have a REP platform, as we call it, which is a very sophisticated wealth management platform for advisors to use with their clients, which brings together a whole variety of different assets for clients. We have a master trust platform, which is a more simplified platform for clients that don't need kind of the sophistication that advisors typically talk to their clients about. And then around those two main platforms, we have a variety of other components to our ecosystem. We have very sophisticated engagement tools powered by predominantly Adobe and other engagement tools sitting around that. We have a data platform underpinning all of this based on Azure and Databricks. And then we've got our corporate application sitting around all of that in terms of cyber, IT security, regular corporate core capabilities, and IT core capabilities. Most of them Microsoft-centric architecture. So that gives you a bit of a picture of both our technology strategy and the high-level architecture.
You mentioned data there. Do you want to talk a little bit about the data platform itself and the origins of where standing up that particular system came from?
We came to the conclusion a couple of years ago that we needed to transform the business. We didn't want to continue to make incremental changes to our existing setup and our existing capabilities, and wanted to make a step change. And that gave us an opportunity to almost think from scratch on setting up our data capabilities. Data, we realized, is the lifeblood of the organization. When we think through our clients, for them, data and status and insights is incredibly important, whether that is the advisors of or the end clients, but also for our own organization. Management, reporting, efficiency that we can achieve through data left a lot of room for improvement. So we had an opportunity to set up things in a very clean way. And we've embraced that opportunity in terms of making sure that we set up an extensive data platform that needed to meet a few drivers. First of all, it needed to be sustainable. We wanted to lower the cost to run of data. As you can imagine, over 20, 30 years, data seems to grow everywhere and people continue to add what seems like really good enhancements to your data capability over time. But if you look back, it becomes very overwhelming and complex to manage. So we wanted to have a more sustainable platform. We want to have more flexibility because we knew that this is an area, particularly with new innovations coming in that leverage data in a very different way. We needed to have flexibility around it and an ability to change quickly. I wanted to make sure that we started using modern capabilities. So mature, sophisticated, modern capabilities. And finally, the last driver, which I'm sure is on every COO or CTO's mind, is security. We wanted to make sure we created a data environment that was secure and suitable for a heavily regulated environment. Those were some of the drivers. And so we took the opportunity to almost start from scratch. And when I say that, I mean that. We created a data foundation without trying to be limited by the existing constraints of the heritage organization. So we set up a whole fresh new data platform, and we're now progressively moving the data from the heritage organization into the target state platform that we have built. When we move each of those pieces, we make sure that we adhere to modern data management practices, We make sure we've got the right data monitoring and governance in place so that we build a very sustainable capability that will set us up for the future.
So just to step back on a couple of those points that you mentioned there. So firstly, you mentioned that you had 30 plus years of data capability that had been built up. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what was in place in terms of data infrastructure and data assets? How was data managed or worked with within CFS before this particular program of work?
It was more federated previously in the sense that you had data intrinsic to our legacy applications, which were predominantly managed inside those applications. And so there was a multi-point-to-point kind of integration between all of that to keep everything connected, but it was approached in a very federated way. The real difference is now is that we've taken more of an holistic look at how we manage data across our entire ecosystem, with the data platform being the centerpiece of that, rather than that being an add-on across the heritage applications. So we flipped the philosophy around and now take the data platform as the foundation from which we want to consolidate reporting, from which we want to consolidate insight, from which we want to create the right support for distribution teams, for our product teams, for our call center teams, for our admin teams. So that's where we're trying to focus our efforts now, is to try to leverage a more singular strategy for data management and governance than we had previously. So previously, we very much had a federated, or as I said, distributed architecture, where different product owners were responsible for data in their specific domain with their specific applications. And so that's the big change.
You've made that sound very simple, but were there some challenging conversations there in terms of unwinding some of that federated ownership and control of specific data sources and really trying to centralize some of those?
Oh, yeah, look, I can talk about that for hours probably, right? So obviously, people have built up their own data domains over time, and they take great pride and confidence from the way in which they've set up their data. So the technology is one aspect of this thing, but the more important change was the people change and the culture change around data in the organization, to open up those domains and to adopt more standardized and more modern data management practices, and working collaboratively with the various domain owners and the various product owners and the application owners in order for them to subscribe to that vision and start helping us create that vision. So I think that was actually the hardest part of the change, and not the technology or the process part of it.
And you mentioned there that you created a data foundation without any limitations or constraints from the previous way that data was managed or governed. Do you want to talk us through how you went about that, and particularly on the people side, how the input of those different organizations and teams and units helped to craft what the future of their data management would look like?
When I say that, I gotta be realistic as well. And obviously, there will be certain requirements that will need to be met out of the old setup and the target state as well. So we need to be conscious. We are a heavily regulated organization, and therefore there are specific requirements that we need to fulfill in order to make sure that we continue to report, to continue to provide insights, to continue to provide controls in a certain way. So we need to be conscious of that. But we didn't want the complexity of that to kind of limit our thinking at the start. So we did work with a close partner of us, Present, who are very skilled in thinking through these types of programs and helping set up modern data capabilities. And so we had an extensive set of workshops where we did consult, obviously, with the various owners of the parts of our ecosystem, and created some understanding of complexities of our data capability, but then tried to ensure that whatever we designed wasn't trying to replicate what we've built in the past, but try to integrate the needs of various data users into the new environment. So that was our philosophy. And I'm actually quite pleased that after a few initial interactions where the problem seemed quite intractable, that we actually came to a really good place with various stakeholders in our organization, where they could see the benefits of what we were trying to achieve, and they started to come up with some great solutions on that. So one of those areas is, of course, management information. As you can imagine, the management information, again, is something that typically grows over time into a very large, unwieldy set of metrics that don't always align and provide different levels of insight. And it's very hard for people to give up on something that they used to receive. And we were questioning that every step of the way. So we really wanted to simplify reporting. I think we're now big users of Power BI as a single reporting tool. We had to consolidate a multitude of other reporting tools, but I think people now really see the benefit of having a single reporting platform around management information. We're still not finished. We've still got a long way to go, but they can see the benefit of having a simplified set of insights, metrics, and information on a single platform that you can use as a dashboard live in meetings rather than the usual take the data out, put it on a PowerPoint. And we try to also change our ways in terms of how we interact, both from the top down as a leadership team, as well as in the business with data that we now have available.
So I guess just going back to what we were talking about there around setting up the data foundations, but also what the reporting suites as well. One of the people challenges is that regardless of what they've got to work with, people learn to live with the complexity of their environments. The change management exercise in this is really, once you'd had these workshops to really try and show organizations and teams and divisions that there was a different way to approach the same data management or data access challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And again, as part of this, we wanted to redesign identity and access management as well. So we also took on that challenge to re-architect all of that, implementing SailPoint to sit across our environments and making sure that we streamline all of that. And to your point, I think that the hardest challenge is the cultural challenge. If you go to a person and say, look, can we stop producing this report? The answer typically is no, because even if they don't use it, they're still used to getting the report every week or every month. And they take some comfort out of the fact that they have that information in case they need it. So it does require a lot of effort to kind of work that through case by case, report by report, stakeholder by stakeholder, in order to get them to see that maybe not all the information needs to be produced on that a regular basis, or a self-service query could be sufficient to address that rather than the production and the getting of a report. So there's a lot of effort involved, but it's definitely well worth it because we feel we are in a much better place now than we were 2 years ago when we started this journey.
So you talked about moving the data across from the heritage organization into the target state in a progressive or a staged manner. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the staging? And I guess this would also go to what you selected first, or what sort of cadence you selected in terms of the data that you've brought across, and therefore the value that you were able to show that this program was capable of producing, which would influence the future direction and what cadence of movement occurs down the track.
Yeah, this is part of a broader transformation program. So the cadence has been very much determined with the other parts of the transformation program. So when we rebuilt our rep system, we launched that last year. On the back of that, obviously, we were able to then ingest the data from that new product platform, which is heavily used by advisors, into our data lake and start enhancing that information in order to create good insight on things like flows, on things like system performance, on insights in terms of usage of the platform. And so we have been quite deliberate in terms of not trying to do everything in one go and have a big bang cut-over event across this initiative. We've taken very much a measured approach where each time there's another component of our overall organizational architecture comes into play, we then start ingesting the data from that into the data lakehouse, and making sure that we have an ability to enhance that data, to mature that data, to ensure that the quality is up to the level where we think it needs to be. And again, as you be very familiar with Databricks, there's a very systematic approach to progressing data from bronze to silver to gold, etc. And we've been working that through bit by bit. The next bit that we're going to go in, we're just about to go live with a big change on our Master Trust platform. And so we'll be ingesting a lot of the data from that platform into our data capability as well. And that will generate a lot of additional insights for the advisors and for the members on that platform. So it's been dictated very much by the other components of the transformation program. And then the other thing I'd add to that, it's also dictated by the demands of the business. So if, for example, we wanted to do more analysis around our acquisition journeys on Adobe and on our website. And so we started loading information from those capabilities, our front-end capabilities, onto the data platform, and then feed that to our data engineers and our machine learning team so that they can start analyzing that data and enriching and enhancing that data and create better insights for us as how we can better engage with our clients and be more successful in terms of creating journeys for them that they really love. And so I think that has been more driven by business demand rather than transformation timings.
Very interesting. You started to talk there a bit about the more advanced side of analytics that probably fall out of a project like this. I wondered if you could just talk a little bit about some of the ambitions in this space around how you might be able to use this enterprise data platform infrastructure to support some of the more advanced analytics use cases, and what kind of data sources you might be able to leverage or bring together to support some of those ambitions.
It's a fascinating time, really, isn't it, at the moment, with all that new innovation coming into our industry and into the world more generally. And so we were very conscious right from the start that we need to build a platform that could both cater to basic needs, and that could be simple management reporting or operational reporting or other things, as well as would be conducive to feeding more advanced capabilities that we were aiming to build. And at the time, which is just before Gen AI came out, we already had invested in machine learning, deep learning, those types of capabilities, and with great insights on our user journeys for advisors and for members, and try to enhance them systematically. And I'm glad that we did, because you get out of innovation what you put into it. And therefore, having data organized in a certain way, making sure that it's tagged properly. I'm the first to admit that we've got a long way to go to get the data shaped up. And we didn't want to stop innovation either until all the data was perfected, so to speak. And I don't think we'll ever get there. But it made us think about how do we set up the platform to make sure that we can support these types of innovations going forward. And again, rather than try to invent the wheel ourselves, our strategy was very much to leverage leading organizations in this space. As we are a Microsoft-centric organization, it's a very logical place for us to connect to understand how to set up our data platform in a way that it would be conducive to AI or any other innovations coming our way. And we got a lot of support, to be honest. And I think that the benefit for them is that they can work with an organization that's fast and nimble and is happy to move quickly on implementing modern technology. And the benefit for us, of course, is that we get the investment and the time and the expertise applied to our organization, which otherwise we would struggle to find. Both Microsoft and Present have been extremely supportive of helping us build this data platform and set up in a way that it will be easier for us going forward to innovate from, rather than based on our heritage stack, where, as I said, it's very hard to work off a federated structure to drive these types of innovations, because the innovation is very much correlated to how well you can stitch the data together. And that's much easier to do in the target state environment that we have rather than in the heritage organization.
I don't think you'd be alone in experiencing a large amount of the initial effort around going into data transformation and data preparation. It seems to be a theme that's common across most data analytics and data science projects.
Yeah, it has also made us focus very much on non-structured information rather than structured information. I think traditionally we were far more focused on structured information. And so we now are experimenting applying Gen AI to a large range of unstructured information, whether that will be feedback that we receive from our advisors or our clients, which will come in multiple channels, which will come into multiple systems in our stack. And so we're trying to bring all of that together centrally. And then, of course, we can use other technologies like Gen AI to give us some differentiated insights that we were not able to do previously. And not just on that area. We've got one area in the business. They're experts in the Australian taxation and superannuation legislation. And so they have got loads of documents, PDF documents, and written responses to advisors and otherwise around what the best strategies are for clients to make sure that they can optimize their superannuation or their wealth management objectives. And again, they're being able to ingest unstructured information in a different way, chunking it in the right way, making sure that we can feed it into our Gen AI engines, I think has opened up a whole lot of other insights for us now. And again, we're only still scratching the surface in many ways, but it's very exciting to see that come to the fore.
We've talked a lot about technology, we've talked a lot about process, we've talked a lot about the back end kind of side of things. It'd be useful, I think, to just switch the conversation, talk a little bit about how this is being experienced at the front end. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the reporting suite and talked about how the reporting is being improved, but it'd be useful, just to understand, in association with doing all this work in the back end, how you're building data capability and data skills within the organization to be able to take advantage of all this great stuff that you're doing from a data perspective.
Yeah, so I think about the benefits of this capability along 3 lines. The first one is we'll be able to create more efficiency and agility in the organization. The second one is it will help us make better decisions, because if we've got better data and we've got better insights, we'll be able to make better decisions as to where we invest and how we optimize the organization. The last one is probably the most important one. which is how do we use all of this insight in order to create better experiences for our advisors and for our clients. And that is where it feels we're on the cusp of something quite different from what we have done previously. We're now bringing together information from a multitude of different channels, whether that be our online channels, our websites, our apps for our clients and our advisors, our product platforms and our wealth management platforms, our workflow management systems and the status around every work item that we process within CFS. And we're able to start to create a more holistic view across all of those different interactions with our clients and with our advisors, and being able to create support for either our frontline staff, whether that be the distribution folks or call center representatives who are interacting with our clients every day, all day, but also eventually maybe directly for those clients and be able to give them better insights. Because at the end of the day, those clients that use our platforms, what do they want? They want great service. They want us to understand them deeply. They want personalized experiences. They want to understand exactly where things are up to when we manage their assets on their behalf on our platforms. And so having a more sophisticated and modern data capability will be able to enhance the service even more than we have today. We are typically come out very well rated in terms of our service to clients as published by organizations like Wealth Insight. But for us, that is not good enough. I think these types of capabilities will enable us to create much better experiences yet again for our clients. And so we're very motivated and very enthused by the opportunities, and we'll be very focused in terms of putting more funding into optimizing journeys, as we call it. We've organized all of our experiences along journeys to start analyzing journey by journey how we can improve those journeys further. And as you can imagine, data analytics and data is essential to monitor, analyze journeys and to come up with improvements to those journeys. So that's where I'm going to be spending a lot of time over the next 6 to 12 months.
What advice can you offer to other organizations that are either embarking on a data journey or are in progress with a data journey?
I think the main insight I have for you and for other people that are thinking about implementing these types of journeys is resetting yourself around data. Is don't underestimate the time and the effort it takes in order to bring the organization along on this path. That technology may seem the complex component of this, or the process re-engineering may seem the complex component of it, but the complexity is in comparison with making sure that you bring the different stakeholders across the organization on the journey and get them to see the benefits of data. And the best way to do that is, as I said, case by case, use case by use case, to bring that to life. Nothing beats good storytelling in town halls, in large organizational forums, to get people to live and breathe this, because my vision is definitely that this is not just a job for the data team or for the machine learning team or for the deep learning team or for the Gen AI team or for the data management and governance forums. This is something that everyone in the organization ideally understands and contributes to, because if everybody is conscious as to what the power of data is and how they can be used, and they classify and they take that extra bit of effort to make sure that the data is clean, is well classified and tagged, I think that will create huge effect over time. So I thought I'd leave you with that thought.
Organizations are facing a perfect storm. New legislation, a plethora of different standards like ISO 27001, the Essential 8 and NIST, coupled with increasingly well-resourced threat actors, are making the job of securing information assets increasingly difficult. Peter Soulsby, head of security at Brennan, says finding the right signals to focus on amongst all the noise has become more challenging than ever.
There's definitely a lot of noise out there at the moment. It's very hard for businesses to decide what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, because that noise that I speak about, there's increased legislation, there's lots of different frameworks out there, there's lots of different understanding as it relates to what to do and how to do it when it comes to cybersecurity and protecting your data. Coupled together with the noise, behavior or bad activity from threat actors is on the increase. We're seeing a lot of public incidents out there. There's a lot of incidents that don't get disclosed. The Australian Institute of Criminology will tell you that 47% of Australians have been the victim of a cyber incident over the last 12 months. So there's a lot of bad activity happening, and there's not a lot of response to that bad activity in terms of threat actors potentially going to jail or suffering as a result of that threat activity.
With so much happening, Peter says organizations often try to do too much.
Because of all the noise that businesses face and the threat that's out there, I see businesses trying to do very large programs of work that cover many different aspects. What I will always say to any organization that I speak to is it's better to do 2, 3, 4 things well than it is to try and do 50 things badly. So rather focus on something that's going to change, the security profile for your business and do it really, really, really well, as opposed to doing all sorts of different things and not completing them and doing them properly.
Cybersecurity programs are subject to the same resource and financial constraints as all business programs. Knowing where to best invest limited budgets means organizations need to focus on initiatives that will make the biggest difference to risk.
Start by asking yourself a simple question. What data in my business, if it leaves today, is going to fundamentally impact the ability for my business to operate? Once you've asked yourself that question, go then ask yourself, well, where is that data? Who's got access to it? And what is it being used for? Through that qualification process, you can very, very quickly nail down or drill down on data that is very, very important to your business. And you can then set yourself on the path to protecting and securing that data. Once you've identified the data that is essential to your business and core to the ability for your business to operate, there's a few very basic steps that you can go about applying to that data to make sure that it's secure. Limit the access to that data. Don't keep it for longer than you need it. So take a very hard look at the data that you have in your organization and ask yourself, why am I keeping this data? Once you've done that, make sure backups are in place and test them regularly. Backups are absolutely key to businesses being able to continue should a cyber incident happen. Make sure multi-factor authentication is in place and be ruthless with this. Encrypt data whenever and wherever possible and make sure endpoints are protected. These are fundamental things that any business should be applying for a security posture. But when you apply these things to your data and the most important data in your business and you're ruthless about that application, you will go a long way to protecting your business.
Taking the right steps increases the difficulty and costs for attackers. But should an attacker successfully breach your security, you can minimize the blast radius and recover faster if you've taken a strategic approach to protecting key assets.
If a threat actor gets into your environment, if your data is secure and it's very, very difficult to get that data, delete that data, destroy that data, or apply malware to that data, threat actors can become frustrated and find something else to do that is potentially easier. In the event, though, that they do get access to the data or steal the data, do what they need to with the data, go back to the point about backups. The faster you can restore your business, the less impact a cybersecurity incident is going to have on your business. So if we're talking about restoring your business in days and weeks as opposed to months and potentially even longer, the impact of a cyber incident on your business is far less drastic. The more time you can spend understanding how to recover your business, the better positioned you will be when that cybersecurity incident takes place. It's like having good muscle memory. The more you practice, the better you'll get. It's the same when it comes to cybersecurity incidents and restoring your business.
A strategic approach to data security starts with knowing what your key data assets are, where they're stored, and putting steps in place that focus on protecting those assets. In a world filled with cybersecurity noise, ensuring you focus on the right signal can be the difference between a damaging breach and quickly returning to business as usual.
That's it for this fortnight's episode. Let us know what you think by reviewing the IT News podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts from. Your feedback is greatly appreciated and helps us create content better catered to you, the listener. For all the latest headlines and happenings in Australian technology news, visit itnews.com.au. And while you're there, check out the 2024 IT News State of Security Report, where we delve into crucial security trends and validate them with end users.